You've probably heard of Dexter's Laboratory and Samurai Jack, but there's a good chance you might have missed out on this Cartoon Network series called Sym-Bionic Titan. With a single season spanning 20 episodes, the show was famous for its serious tone and had the potential to become one of the OG shows. However, it couldn't quite make it, which we'll reveal later in the video, so make sure to watch till the end. However, before we begin, let us set some context for better understanding. Sym-Bionic Titan features the adventures of three beings from the planet Gallaluna who crash land on Earth while attempting to escape their war-torn world. The series follows the lives of Lance, Alana, and Octus, two alien teenagers and a robot in humanoid form. They live on Earth, a planet identical to their home, Gallaluna, while fleeing an evil general who has taken over their home planet with the help of monstrous creatures called Mutrati. Season 1. The story begins with a huge gate opening in the sky and a shiny spaceship zooming out towards Earth. A small satellite notices the strange ship and sends out a warning. The spaceship flies fast over Sherman, Illinois, while people below just keep doing their usual stuff. It crashes down in a nearby forest with a loud bang. Lance then steps out wearing a cool space suit, a helmet to breathe, and also holding a weapon to check things out. Alana, not seeming to worry, walks out after him, but Lance quickly tosses a helmet onto her head, not sure if the air here is safe. However, Octus, their helpful guide, tells them it's okay to just like back home. Lance tries to tell Alana about the possible dangers and his job to protect her, but Alana, feeling sure of herself, brushes off his warnings, saying she knows all about his past, and suddenly, army helicopters appear searching the forest. Caught in a bright light, the three find themselves surrounded by soldiers and big tanks. Mistaken for bad guys, Lance turns into his tough form, ready to fight, while Octus grabs Alana and rushes her away to a safer place. Alana activates her armor and quickly destroys one of the tanks, but she is shocked to see that the attackers look just like her and Lance. Hurrying back to the chaos, she manages to stop Lance from causing more harm, and they slip away under cover of smoke. Once they've cleared the danger, they decide to blend in with regular Earthlings to keep Alana safe. Octus dives into the vast sea of the internet to learn about Earthling teens, stumbling upon a TV show called High School High. They decide to use it as a guidebook to fit in at a local high school, seeing it as the perfect hiding place. Meanwhile, as the soldiers regroup, General Steele arrives to inspect the scene. In a meeting, the aliens are described as giant metal men. Then the Galactic Guardian group swoops in to claim the crashed ship. Solomon, their leader, takes charge and declares they're taking over the investigation, which makes Steele furious. Meanwhile, back on Gallaluna, the king finds himself chained up in front of terrifying Mutrati monsters as Modula, who the king thought was dead, reveals himself. Modula admits to planning the attack on Gallaluna and proclaims himself the new ruler. Desperate for Alana's whereabouts, Modula reads the king's mind and discovers that she's been sent far away through the Rift Gate. He summons a monstrous Mutrati beast to track her down and sends it through the Rift Gate to Earth. On the other hand, Lance, Octus, and Alana disguise themselves as typical high school students and enroll at Sherman High School. Octus, now going by Newton, fills them in on the school's routine and enrolls them as siblings under the surname Lunas. But blending in proves tricky. Alana's quirky attitude and odd clothes earn her the label of a weirdo, while Octus' knack for solving tough problems makes him the resident super nerd. Lance, with his tough guy vibe, quickly gains a reputation as the Riz King of the school. The monstrous Mutrati Mega Beast bursts through the Rift Gate, triggering another warning. General Steele, quick to notice, charts a course to intercept it before G3 gets wind of the situation. Meanwhile, over at G3, Solomon catches wind of the incoming threat while inspecting the spacecraft, so he dispatches Team Delta to deal with it. Back at Sherman High, Lance, Octus, and Alana watch the chaos unfold on the cafeteria TV screens. They witness the falling object crash, igniting a blazing fire and then morphing into a menacing creature that walks menacingly towards the city. Alana recognizes it instantly as a Mutrati Mega Beast and urges Lance to defend the city. But Lance, wise to the danger of exposing their identities, advises against it. He explains that attacking the monster would only draw more of its kind to Earth, endangering everyone, and Octus agrees, deciding it's best to let Earth's defenses handle the threat. As the Mega Beast wreaks havoc, Alana resolves to confront it herself, with Lance and Octus reluctantly following suit. Witnessing the giant metal men, General Steele orders a full-scale attack on both the Mega Beast and the trio. Trapped between Steele's firepower and the Mega Beast's raging assault, Octus links up with Lance and Alana, forming the Sym-Bionic Titan. Amidst the chaos, the Titan faces off against the colossal monster, drawing cheers from onlookers. As the battle rages on, the Mega Beast unleashes scorching waves of heat, vaporizing parts of the city. In response, the Titan drowns the creature into the ocean, stripping away its fiery abilities. But the relentless beast continues its assault, squeezing the Titan in its grasp. In a last-ditch effort, G3 deploys its wave motion cannon, providing a distraction that allows the Titan to slice the mega beast into pieces. With the threat neutralized, the Titan retreats from the city and the bewildered army. Meanwhile, Lance, Octus, and Alana, left to think about their actions, reflect on the consequences of their intervention. In a quiet neighborhood, Alana, Lance, and Octus pose as the Lunas family, using cash to buy a house. Octus, their dad, prioritizes security over furnishings, much to Alana's frustration. Neighbor Barb offers furniture advice to Alana, who sneaks off to the mall against Lance's wishes. On the bus, Alana overhears chatter about mysterious robots and news of their recent battle. Lance follows, navigating through guarded parts of the city until he catches her on the bus. He quickly swings in through a window and annoys Alana. Meanwhile, on Galaluna, General Modula easily defeats rebels and sends a massive robotic beast after Alana. At the mall, Alana enjoys the surroundings while Lance worries about nearby soldiers. Inside, they encounter a pushy lotion salesman whom Lance mistakes for a threat. Despite Alana's scolding, Lance remains vigilant. In the furniture store, Alana tries to relax Lance by inviting him to test a couch, but he stays tense. They explore model rooms, and Alana recalls her happier times on Galaluna, causing tension when Lance suggests leaving. Alana's typical teenage girl hormones kick in, and she storms off, leaving Lance to reflect on his feelings. As Mr. Lunas, Octus sets up a security system but gets interrupted by Barb bearing cookies. Swiftly switching to his guise, Octus guides her away when she touches a security orb directing her to the kitchen. Meanwhile, sensors detect Modula's beast landing in Egypt, but failing to locate Alana's signal. Back at the furniture store, Lance and Alana confront guards and the pushy salesman. Lance activates his armor, scaring off the guards but drawing the robotic monster's attention. At the house, Octus, alarmed by the sensors, enlists Barb's help to plant dampening markers in the yard. Impressed, Octus accepts her assistance, and they start working together. Back at the mall, soldiers swarm in, targeting Lance. Alana activates her armor, urging Lance to flee, and they crash down to the lower level, causing chaos. Outside, a tank fires, but Alana shields them with her barrier. They escape through the tank's hole and face a new monster. Chased through the city, they realize their weapons aren't effective against the monster. A big brain moment occurs as Lance creates a diversion with smoke missiles, allowing them to retreat back to the suburbs. Meanwhile, Octus senses the approaching danger and sends Barb away. Lance and Alana land in front of Octus, who reveals that the monster is focusing on Lance's armor signal. As the colossal creature draws near, Octus sheds his disguise, preparing for symbiosis. Alana suggests the name Titan, which Octus and Lance agree on, and they merge to form the Sym-Bionic Titan. The monster attacks with an energy beam, but the Titan erupts a force field for protection. Despite their efforts, the monster overwhelms them, flinging the Titan into the air and causing widespread destruction upon landing. Inside the Titan, Octus detects a potent energy signature within the creature but struggles to penetrate its thick skin. Lance decides to sever their link, intending to defeat the creature from within, and Alana protests, but Lance's decision is final. Once separated, Lance flies into the creature's maw with a spear and locates its energy core. He destroys it, causing the monster to explode from the inside out. Lance emerges unscathed, leaving only mechanical remnants behind. That evening, the trio enjoys Barb's cookies for dinner in their empty living room. After complimenting the cookies, Lance heads to bed. Alone with Octus, Alana questions why her father chose someone like Lance to help her. Octus suggests her father may see something special in Lance that others don't. Later, Alana discovers the snow globe from the mall in her room and bids Lance goodnight, while Lance reciprocates from his own room. Meanwhile, at the mall, a night watchman repeatedly watches footage of Lance's armor activation for entertainment. Solomon arrives and instructs the guard to hand over all the tapes. In the ocean, divers recover a large mysterious rock and transport it to a submarine. Meanwhile, General Steele discusses the Sym-Bionic Titan on a TV interview, viewing it as an alien threat despite its heroic actions. He hints at having a plan to deal with it. In an open field, Alana, Lance, and Octus train with the Titan against missiles. Lance prefers offense with a sword, while Alana favors defense with a shield, leading to tension and a system malfunction that causes the Titan to crash. On their way home, Lance and Alana's argument continues, leaving Octus concerned. Arriving home at night, Lance and Alana enter the house ahead of Octus. Outside, Octus meets a neighbor who mentions an educational program called Animal Friends to resolve a dispute between their children. Meanwhile, Alana plans to write a history report on her own after Lance prioritizes exercise over homework. That same night, at a military base, General Steele oversees scientists studying the mystery rock from the ocean, believing it could aid in defending against alien attacks. He orders it open with the X-18 despite Solomon's warning. The attempt yields a massive storm cloud the next morning, leading to chaos, and Solomon holds Steele responsible for the situation. At the Luna's house, Lance finds Octus watching Animal Friends and cooking breakfast. Octus, sensing Lance's mood, seeks advice from the cartoon. Lance expresses frustration about Alana, but when she enters, he can't voice his concerns. Later, during history class, Alana presents her report, subtly criticizing Lance through General Custer's actions. They argue, prompting the teacher to grant them another chance to present their report the next day. After agreeing to meet Lance in the library to work on their report, Alana drops her tough demeanor when away from him. Venting her frustrations to Octus, disguised as Newton, she complains about Lance always having to get his way. Octus offers her advice and mentions a distant weather anomaly before leaving. As Alana watches the sky darken with storm clouds, Lance, unaware of her whereabouts, searches for her in the library, only to be informed by Newton that she has activated her armor and gone into the thunderstorm. Meanwhile, General Steele battles the alien storm cloud in the suburbs, ordering the use of an EMP weapon which only makes the cloud more powerful. Alana analyzes the cloud and discovers Mutrati DNA within it. As soldiers attack her, she is rescued by Lance and Octus, and they form the Titan to defend against the cloud's destructive lightning bolts. Disagreements arise between Lance and Alana on tactics, but they ultimately save a hospital. However, the Titan's armor is damaged, leading to further disagreements until Octus reminds them of teamwork. The Titan devises a plan to absorb and redirect the cloud's energy, requiring them to fly into the heart of the storm. Despite initial difficulties, they succeed in destroying the cloud. However, the Titan crash lands on General Steele's base. Afterwards, Lance finds Alana unconscious, but she soon wakes up, relieved by Lance's concern. Octus emerges unscathed, and they flee as Steele blames the Titan for the destruction. The next day, Lance and Alana receive praise for their oral report, attributed to teamwork, with Octus awkwardly smiling as Newton. On Galiluna, rebel soldiers in an underground hideout face the challenge of fighting Mutrati raiders while caring for refugees. Discovered by invaders, they evacuate civilians and engage in battle. During the conflict, soldiers discuss Lance's absence and speculate about the danger of his mission for the king. Meanwhile, Modula attempts to extract information from the king about Alana's companions using a Mutrati creature named Sixi. Learning only that Alana has allies, Sixi is sent to Earth to eliminate them. At the school cafeteria, Alana and Octus host the food party, but students grow disappointed when Lance fails to appear. Meanwhile, Sixi tortures Lance for Alana's whereabouts, then heads to attack her at school. Despite Alana and Octus' resistance, they prove no match for Sixi until Lance, escaping from captivity, activates his armor and aids them just in time. Sixi retreats upon facing the Titan's might, but manages to send an image of the robot through the rift gate before escaping. Upon returning to school, Alana is saddened by Lance's absence, feeling let down over the party. However, they find Lance distributing their food to students, restoring their spirits. Meanwhile, on Galiluna, Modula receives Sixi's recording of the Titan, prompting him to demand answers from the king about the robot. As the trio heads to school, they encounter traffic, worrying Alana about being late. Lance tries to calm her nerves, but their attention is captured by a flashy red car speeding recklessly. Lance and Octus admire its design, but Alana criticizes the driver's dangerous behavior. Suddenly, the traffic halts due to a police car pileup, dashing Alana's hopes of arriving on time. Arriving at school, Alana rushes off, leaving Lance to carry her bag. They spot the same car in the parking lot belonging to a boy named Mike Chan and his girlfriend. Lance is intrigued by the car's modifications, but Chan brushes him off, belittling him and Octus. As the bell rings, they part ways. In class, Alana's tardiness earns her an F for the day, humiliating her in front of her peers. At lunch, Octus enjoys popsicles, while Lance crafts a model car from the sticks. Alana joins them, lamenting her earlier embarrassment. When Lance jokes about getting a driver's license, Alana sternly lectures him on the importance of following rules. Mike interrupts, mocking them and destroying Lance's model. Despite Lance's anger, Alana reminds him of the consequences of fighting, leaving him frustrated as she walks away. Octus comforts Lance and shares a hologram of a car he designed. Lance and Octus work together to rebuild a wrecked car, enhancing it with Galilunian upgrades for better performance. Their celebration is interrupted by Alana, who warns them about the expired milk, leaving them perplexed. After completing the car, Octus enjoys a popsicle, while Lance decides to take the car for a spin. What starts as a casual drive around the block turns into an impromptu downtown cruise. At a stoplight, Lance encounters Mike Chan and his girlfriend, who challenge him to a street race. The race takes place at a construction site, with Mike explaining the rules. As they tear through the site, Lance's attempts to overtake Mike are thwarted by his cronies. Undeterred, Lance pulls off daring stunts to keep up with Mike, but ultimately loses the race due to Chan's tactics. As the police arrive, Chan and his gang flee, leaving Lance to be apprehended. At the holding cell, Lance faces interrogation about the White Dragon, but Alana intervenes, citing the rules and securing Lance's release. She insists that Lance must obtain a valid driver's license if he wants to continue driving. Lance passes his driver's test and goes on his test drive, unaware of Chan and the White Dragon gang's interference. Meanwhile, a rift gate opens, releasing another monster. Ilana and Octus rush to Lance's aid, with Ilana reluctantly agreeing to break some rules for the greater good. On the highway, Lance demonstrates his driving skills under the looming threat of the Mutrati. Despite Chan's attempts to sabotage him, Lance proves his skills behind the wheel. Eventually, Ilana, Lance, and Octus reunite, and with the teacher's encouragement, Lance realizes his potential as a skilled driver. Forming Titan, they defeat the Mutrati, but Mike, seeking revenge, is arrested by the police. Lance, Ilana, and Octus emerge victorious, with Lance realizing his newfound talent and earning the respect of his peers. In their dreams, Ilana finds herself in a rowboat surrounded by drowning people pleading for help, while Lance experiences being pursued by monsters in a science lab. Both are startled awake by Octus, who informs them of a rift gate opening. Investigating in the Titan, they discover an ancient stone with mysterious hieroglyphics that shocks the Titan upon contact. The next morning, the group is in the kitchen and everything appears to be normal. Octus is washing dishes when Ilana and Lance sit at the table. When they talk about having a strange dream, Ilana and Lance both describe it as forming Titan and finding a strange stone. Confused, they ask Octus if what they thought was a dream really happened. Octus tells them he has no recollection of anything that happened after they went to sleep, which isn't normal. At school, Lance and Ilana experience disturbing visions. Lance sees his father and his younger self. Suddenly, he spots a cloaked figure, reliving the alarms and monsters from his nightmare. Despite the return to normalcy, Lance flees in fear. Meanwhile, Ilana encounters supernatural phenomena in her classroom, with the floorboards and textbook coming to life and pleading for help. Escaping into the hallway, she faces grasping arms emerging from the walls before fleeing the school in tears. Octus in class reviews his memory data and notices a black-robed figure he hadn't seen before. He attempts to contact Lance and Ilana and excuses himself from class. Lance, running home, collides with a mail carrier and saves Ilana from an oncoming car. She insists they return to Galaluna, believing her father and others are communicating with her through the visions. Lance admits to experiencing visions of his father's death. Arriving home, they encounter the black-robed figure in the living room. Initially thinking it's another vision, the figure attacks Lance, blasting him through a wall with an energy blast from his staff. As Octus races back home, he grows anxious over his unsuccessful attempts to reach Lance and Ilana. Inside the house, the dark shaman ensnares Lance and Ilana in more nightmares. Lance witnesses his father besieged by monsters, while Ilana sees a desolate Galaluna with her deceased father. Octus bursts in, dispelling the shaman's influence, and they escape outside, forming Titan. However, weakened, they struggle against the shaman, who animates the stone into a giant. In the midst of battle, they debate the reality of their visions. In Lance's dream, he relives the moment his father departs through a rift gate, reassuring him before disappearing. Lance then enters Ilana's nightmare, rescuing her from an attacking king. Lance helps Ilana discern the illusion, dispelling the dream and returning them to reality. Regaining focus, they defeat the shaman's giant, thwarting his mental assaults. Later, Ilana and Octus send a message to Galaluna for hope and to inquire about her father. Meanwhile, Lance reflects on his father's departure, pondering the reasons behind it. In the heart of the city, Titan grapples with a colossal frog-shaped blob, and their struggle is rocking the streets. Attempts to sever its head prove futile, as it regenerates instantly, swallowing their weapon and then Titan whole. Inside the creature, Octus discovers its vulnerability to high-level radio waves. A burst of these frequencies causes the blob to explode, freeing Titan. The jubilant townsfolk cheer as Titan soars away. In an alley, our heroes revert to their civilian forms and hop into their van, heading off to school. Unbeknownst to them, a tiny piece of the blob creature lurks in Ilana's bag. At school, the aloof Lance is warmly greeted by his peers, while Ilana is largely ignored. Perplexed, Ilana questions Octus, who explains that Lance's cool demeanor garners favor. Spotting a poster for cheerleader tryouts, Ilana sees an opportunity to win acceptance and decides to give it a shot, despite Lance's skepticism. At the tryouts in the school gym, Ilana impresses the judges with her skills. However, the head cheerleader, Kimmy, appears threatened by her success. Kimmy challenges Ilana to stand atop a human pyramid. but secretly signals for sabotage. The pyramid collapses with Alana at the bottom. Kimmy cruelly declares that Alana will never fit in. Frustrated, Alana questions why she should bother trying to gain acceptance if it means sacrificing her integrity. While chaos unfolds at the school, the little blob creature slips out of Alana's locker, slithering its way to the roof and emitting a piercing screech. In the city, Solomon and his Gi-3 team collect the blob creature's remains, but the black sludge breaks free and reconstitutes into the giant blob creature. It joins forces with the little one at the school, using crude shape-shifting to convey that Alana, Lance, and Octus are inside the building. The colossal blob creature engulfs the school, trapping everyone within its maw. During the commotion, Lance roams the halls with a hall pass while Octus partners with a jock nicknamed Meat in the science lab. Octus ponders the creature's resilience while Lance encounters 3 smaller blob creatures in the hall. Recognizing him, they attack, but Lance dodges into a crowd of panicked students attempting to contact Alana via his wristband. With no response, Lance calls Octus, urging him to find a solution while he heads to the gym to locate Alana. In the gym, Alana hides beneath the bleachers from a swarm of blob creatures. Desperate to contact Lance, she realizes her wristband is in the girls' locker room. Evading the creatures, she retrieves her wristband but encounters Kimmy and her friends who accuse her of ruining their hiding spot. Alana finds an escape route through an air vent in the shower ceiling, but the other girls hesitate until the creatures break through the door. Meanwhile, Lance fights off more creatures in the gym, discovering Alana's escape and leaving to find her while evading further encounters. In the science lab, the jocks scramble to barricade the door, but a tiny blob slips through and latches onto Meat's arm. Octus swiftly zaps him with electricity, stunning the blob, which he then traps in a jar to study its properties. Meanwhile, Lance encounters 3 more blob creatures in the hall. Opting for evasion over confrontation, he locks himself in a janitor's closet, only to find it already occupied. After subduing the intruder, Lance discovers it's just another student in the school's mascot costume. While the boy is unconscious, Lance takes the costume for disguise and resumes his search for Alana. As Alana navigates the air vents, she finds Kimmy and the cheerleaders increasingly annoying with their complaints and insults. Attempting to call Lance with her wristband, Alana is interrupted by the girls' inquiries about her brother and remarks on her lack of coolness compared to him. The duct creaks, drawing attention from creatures searching the indoor pool. One peers in through a vent but soon leaves. Lance's voice comes through Alana's wristband, inadvertently revealing their location. The creature dislodges the duct, sending the girls tumbling out. Hearing their cries, Lance rushes to the pool but misses Alana, facing off against the creatures in the mascot suit armed with just a net. Back in the science lab, Octus struggles to find a solution to the blob creature's resistance until Meat inadvertently uses his cell phone, causing the creature in the jar to shriek in agony. Octus realizes that the cell phone signal is the creature's weakness and quickly contacts Lance, who's still in the midst of battle. Alana, hiding with the cheerleaders in the auditorium, joins the conversation as Octus outlines his plan to convert the students' cell phones into weapons. He needs the students to text him so he can send the correct frequency. Lance suggests using the main office's PA system to rally the students, and Alana volunteers to do it since she's nearby. However, Kimmy refuses to follow her any further. Fed up with Kimmy's selfishness, Alana asserts her independence and leaves to save the school alone. In the hall, Alana encounters more creatures blocking her path, but is surprised when Kimmy's friends offer their assistance. Together, they devise a plan with Kimmy's suggestion to use a human pyramid to vault Alana over the creatures. With Kimmy and her friends forming the pyramid, Alana safely clears the creatures and reaches the main office. However, the door is locked and the creatures close in. Lance arrives in the mascot suit and fights them off, breaking the door with one powerful kick. Alana enters the office, uses the PA system, and broadcasts the message to the students. Once Octus receives their phone numbers, he sends back his signal using his own phone. As Alana continues to motivate the students over the PA system, every student is able to destroy a creature just by aiming a phone at them. However, the creatures attacking Lance are still alive and knock the head off of his mascot suit. As soon as the cheerleaders see his face, they rush to his aid with their cell phones. Now all of the creatures are gone, but Alana's speech is still going on over the PA system. Just as she starts to sing an improvised battle hymn, Lance takes the microphone away from her to get her to stop. Later, as they walk the halls together, Lance and Alana see that everything in the school seems to have returned to normal. They bump into Kimmy and her friends, who tease Alana about her singing and her speech. Lance gets upset and is about to confront them, but Alana tells him that what they say doesn't bother her anymore. In the science lab, while the rest of the class celebrates, only Meat gives Octus any praise, then calls him his hero and hugs him. General Modula, frustrated by previous failures against the Sym-Bionic Titan, seeks out the most formidable Mutrati beast known, one feared even by its kin for its planet-destroying power. This beast is sent to Earth in a missile to eliminate the Titan. Lance, Alana, and Octus intercept the missile before it hits Earth, finding a sealed container among the debris. Inside, they discover a seemingly harmless and adorable Mutrati creature, whom they affectionately name Mushy due to his marshmallow-like appearance. Lance nicknames him Terrax, while Octus assigns him the designation 497. However, Octus soon learns that Mushy/Terrax/497 is a living bomb, unstable in Earth's atmosphere. His presence poses a threat, as his eventual death will trigger a cataclysmic explosion capable of destroying the planet. Realizing the danger, Octus convinces his companions to transport Mushy/Terrax/497 into space to ensure Earth's safety. Forming the Sym-Bionic Titan, they fly Mushy/Terrax/497 into space, where he safely detonates far from Earth. His explosion creates a new constellation, prompting Lance, Alana, and Octus to name it. After some debate, they decide on Tashi 497, a combination of their preferred names and Octus' designation, honoring their unique journey together. Kimmy, the cheer squad captain, faces the risk of being kicked off the team unless she passes a math exam. Her only hope lies in getting tutored by Newton. Their initial encounter is awkward, with Kimmy asking Newton to do the work for her, to which he firmly refuses despite her anger and reminders of past grievances, like the coffee incident that stained her cheerleading uniform. Eventually, Newton agrees to help her redo the uniform. When Kimmy shows up at the Galileans' house for tutoring, Alana and Lance are surprised and confused by her presence. Kimmy explains that Newton is helping her with her test, prompting Lance and Alana to storm out, leaving Newton to deal with Kimmy alone, much to his dismay. As Newton attempts to tutor Kimmy, she persists in her attempts to get him to do the work for her. She tries various tactics, including a provocative dance routine, but Newton's a pure Chad. Meanwhile, Lance and Alana enjoy themselves at the Promenade, a popular downtown area. Back at the house, Kimmy continues her efforts to manipulate Newton into doing her work, resorting to desperate measures. Meanwhile, Lance and Alana's night out is interrupted by a Mutrati attack, leaving them vulnerable as their armor is disabled. They flee the chaos in Lance's car, escaping the danger for the moment. Kimmy opens up to Newton, expressing her belief that she's confined to being a ditzy airhead because of her beauty. She confides that her popularity and sense of self-worth are tied to her looks, not her intelligence. As tears well up, Newton consoles her, affirming that she can be both smart and beautiful, with a brain as capable as anyone else's. Kimmy, feeling empowered by his words, regains her confidence and resolves to retake the test on her own, determined to succeed. Suddenly, Kimmy finds herself drawn to Newton, much to his confusion and discomfort. Just as she leans in for a kiss, Lance and Alana burst in, completely bewildered by the scene. They pull Newton aside and question him about the situation. As Newton modifies their armor to withstand the monster's attacks, Lance and Alana tease him about his apparent romance with Kimmy. Newton vehemently denies any romantic involvement, but his uncertainty is evident. After convincing Kimmy to leave, she agrees on the condition that Newton kisses her. Newton's attempt at a quick peck is met with rejection, and Kimmy surprises him with a passionate kiss that momentarily stuns him, causing his holoprojector to glitch, revealing his robotic nature. As Kimmy walks home, lost in the bliss of the evening, the Titan destroys the monster. The next day at school, Kimmy excitedly informs Newton that she passed the test and is back on the cheer squad. Grateful, she hugs him tightly, leaving Lance and Alana in disbelief as they watch the unlikely pair walk hand in hand to class. As Lance, Alana, and Octus leave school, when they arrive home, Solomon, accompanied by G3 troops, emerges. A confrontation ensues, with Solomon engaging Octus in battle until he disables Octus' hologram. Lance and Alana are forcefully taken into the van and Solomon speeds away. Octus gives chase, but the van takes to the air, causing Octus to crash into a store. Investigating further, Octus discovers the van entering G3's spaceship. Meanwhile, Lance and Alana wake up imprisoned in electric force field cages, their watches confiscated. They witness another prisoner resembling Solomon being subjected to brutal treatment. Lance is interrogated by a heavily armored man, enduring physical abuse when he refuses to cooperate. When the man threatens Alana, Lance fights back, overpowering the guards and freeing Alana and the other prisoner. Elsewhere, Octus locates a hidden panel in a field, retrieving their watches just as he bursts into the room. Forming Sym-Bionic Titan, they break through the floor of G3's ship. The prisoner, revealed to be Solomon, joins them in their assault against G3. As they pound against the ship's floor, Sym-Bionic Titan unexpectedly plummets through a hole, descending back to Earth. Solomon ominously remarks that the ordeal is far from over. Later, Octus, Alana, and Lance regroup at home, discussing their encounter with G3. Meanwhile, Solomon reports to his superior, a man with a mechanical arm, who admonishes him to never disobey orders again. Octus and Kimmy drag Alana and Lance to an annual school event in the woods called a Scary Mary Party, honoring a girl named Mary who supposedly died there. In 1957, Mary was a nerdy, unpopular girl at Sherman High. The day before the dance, a popular football player named Greg asked her out, but instead of taking her to the dance, he drove her to an abandoned farm. There, his friends humiliated her by covering her with mud and feathers. Mary fooled and was never seen again. Lance and Alana are reluctant to join the party, but Alana decides to talk to a geeky boy named Jason, while Lance hangs out by the van. A goth girl named Kristen approaches Lance and they begin talking. Octus detects a Mutrati life form in the woods, so the trio goes to investigate, finding an empty spaceship pod. Assuming the Mutrati died on impact, they leave to avoid alarming Kimmy and the others. However, the Mutrati, a shape-shifting beast called the Phantom Chameleon Monster, is still alive. While Octus, Kimmy, and some friends start dancing, the Mutrati blends into the group looking for the trio. It disguises itself as Jason and attacks Alana, but Lance intervenes. Realizing everyone is in danger, they try to leave, but the monster is quick to follow. The monster reveals its true form, causing the students to flee. This gives Lance, Alana, and Octus time to form Sym-Bionic Titan. They struggle to fight the Mutrati as it shifts into a giant version of Kimmy. This monstrous Kimmy stands 80 feet tall with possessed eyes, claw-like fingers, and heavy heels, causing earthquakes with each step. The trio hides, barely avoiding being crushed. Lance peeks from behind a tree, watching the enormous heels pass by, creating tremors under her weight. With renewed determination, Sym-Bionic Titan confronts the monster. They cleverly maneuver to avoid its attacks, focusing on its weaknesses. After an intense battle, they manage to overpower the Mutrati and kill it, restoring peace to the party. Muculox, a frog-like Mutrati, crash lands on Earth in a swamp. Lance, Alana, and Octus investigate and confront the creature. Octus electrocutes Muculox underwater, seemingly killing it. However, as they discuss what to do, Muculox revives, wraps his projectile tongue around Alana's ankle, and injects a topical venom before fleeing. The venom begins altering Alana's DNA, making her stronger, more agile, and changing her appearance. As her transformation progresses, Alana encounters a mutant alligator showing similar signs of transformation. The alligator, initially dead, revives and attacks her. Alana survives with minimal injuries and kills the beast by snapping its jaw. Realizing her condition is worsening, she escapes deeper into the swamp to protect her friends. Lance and Octus catch up to find her under Muculox's control. The creature emits a call from its vocal sac, causing Alana's eyes to change as she completes her transformation and rips off her clothing. Muculox summons its ship from the swamp's depths, intending to take Alana back to Mutrad for a reward. Before they can leave, Lance uses the Mana's armor to leap to the ship and stab Muculox through the chest, killing it and causing the ship to crash. With Muculox dead, the psychic link with Alana is severed. She goes into cardiac arrest but revives as her heart restarts, and she reverts to her humanoid form. Lance, noticing she is nude, wraps her in his sweater. By a campfire, Alana, now back to normal, expresses her desire to go on a date when they return home. Octus and Lance support her decision, but Lance suggests she might want to wait. When Alana asks why, Lance, finding humor in her ignorance of her still wart-covered face, simply asks her to trust him. Disenfranchised, a famous band is playing at Sherman High School. Everyone except Lance leaves. Intrigued by their music, Lance buys a guitar. Though he starts off tune, he quickly masters it. Octus and Alana witness his newfound talent but don't approach him. Meanwhile, General Steele sends a spy, Steve, to the school to uncover the identities behind Sym-Bionic Titan. Steve struggles to find suspects but notices Octus acting unusually. He begins tailing him as his prime suspect. During a cooking class, Octus and Steve notice a Mutrati creature emerging through the rift gate. Octus drops and breaks his cooking bowl, using a bathroom excuse to confront the creature. Steve follows, trying to discover Octus' secret. Octus cleverly diverts Steve into the girls' bathroom. Meanwhile, Alana is playing soccer with friends and Jason struggles with the game. Lance sits in the bleachers, strumming his guitar until Octus calls him to meet in 2 minutes. The trio forms Sym-Bionic Titan, where Octus recounts his encounter. They locate the creature in a forest and engage it in battle. Their usual weapons prove ineffective until Lance reveals the Cronius Chain, a technique he learned during his Cronius exploration on Gallaluna. Using this weapon, they defeat the dragon-like creature and return to the school, unaware that the creature isn't fully vanquished. Back at school, Steve interrogates students about unusual events, leading to the showdown at Sherman High. This makes Lance, Alana, and Octus prime suspects for General Steele. Lance continues playing guitar with Ian from Disenfranchised, who invites him to join the band. Meanwhile, G3 collects the remnants of the dragon defeated by Titan. Lance visits Disenfranchised's house, where Ian introduces him. They play a song composed by Lance. That night, Ian asks Lance to join them on stage for a performance, and Lance agrees. The next day, Octus can't stop talking about Steve constantly watching him. Lance informs Alana and Octus that he's playing with the band at a concert that night. Though he intended to tell only them, others overhear. When he goes, multiple girls ask Alana if what they heard is true. When Alana confirms, they run away, squealing in delight. Octus continues to worry about Steve. Alana initially dismisses Steve as ordinary, but when she tells Octus to mimic her movements, she notices Steve does the same. Realizing he's a spy, Alana instructs Octus to confront Steve and find out what he's up to. Octus discovers Steve is a soldier working for General Steel to uncover the identities behind Titan and threatens him to back off. Steve reluctantly complies. Later, during the concert, Steel sends more soldiers to monitor Lance, Alana, and Octus. Octus detects the Mutrati creature's return, and Alana follows. Steve tries to get Steel to follow them, but Octus creates an illusion of himself and Alana watching the concert, tricking Steel and Steve. Lance receives a call from Octus about the creature, but Alana insists he stays on stage. Octus then generates a hologram of the Mana's armor to provide Lance an alibi during the fight. This convinces Steel that the ones behind Titan aren't the trio. As the concert concludes, Octus and Alana successfully defeat the creature. The next day, the band decides they're only popular because of Lance and kick him out. Lance tells Alana and Octus about this, feeling disheartened. Alana reassures him that he's still a talented musician and suggests they start their own band, calling it the Galactic Trio. On the day of the Mutrati invasion, Alana is on a goodwill tour, dedicating a new school with her bodyguard Hobbs. She's approached by a little girl who's lost her pet, and Alana decides to blow off her schedule to climb down a well and rescue the Sano kitty. Meanwhile, on one of Galaluna's indeterminate number of moons, a hostage situation is playing out. Lance's squad is keeping watch on it. Lance wants to go in and resolve things, but his commander refuses and tells him to return to his posts. Lance goes in anyway and finds the hostages are already dead. He overhears the bandits, the Mutrati, discussing plans to invade. Lance's commander leads the troops in and finds Lance surrounded by dead bodies. He arrests the corporal, blaming him with insubordination, which led to the deaths of the hostages. Back on Galaluna, the king is finishing building Octus, and Lance is thrown in the dungeon again. He tries to explain what happened to the king. This isn't the first infraction by a long shot, but the king has had enough and turns his back on Lance. The invasion starts. Alana and Hobbs make a desperate race back to the palace, while the king fights a futile battle in the ruins. Lance escapes from jail and discovers the invasion is actually a coup by a number of officers, including his commander, who's revealed to be a traitor. Lance kills his former commander after a running sword fight across Galaluna. Alana and Hobbs, after their air skiff is shot down and Hobbs is injured, hijack a Mutrati tank and shoot their way through the cordon of Mutrati troops attacking the palace. Just as Alana and her father enter the palace, they're ambushed by the Mutrati, only for Lance to swing in and save them. Lance informs the king about the truth of the attack, and the king sees Lance and Alana escape with a rocket. After presenting them with Octus, he informs them that he's staying behind to lead his people. Alana tearfully refuses to leave him, but he forces her to go. He then apologizes to Lance for not believing in him and presents him with a new Mana's control unit. The two teenagers and the robot board the rocket and successfully manage to enter the Rift Gate, being sent off into the unknown. Winter has come to Sherman, Illinois. Alana gazes out across the snowy landscape, watching children and families happily playing, reminded of Galaluna's Harvest Festival. Her daydreaming is interrupted by Lance. Meanwhile, on Galaluna, General Modula muses about how to crush the spirit of the people as music and laughter drift across the planet. An alien monster approaches him, offering his life in exchange for a beast that will crush the princess, as rumors of Modula's failures spread. At school, Alana, feeling homesick, notices a poster for the homecoming dance and is delighted. She finds the meeting room and shares her idea of a Harvest Festival theme with the other two members of the planning staff, Todd and Maribel. With no ideas of their own and moved by her description, they accept her idea almost immediately. Outside, Newton and Kimmy talk about the dance when Brandon and his friends attack them with snowballs. Newton quickly drives them off. Kimmy asks Newton to take her to the dance, and he agrees, but only if Lance and Alana come too. Kimmy grudgingly agrees, but insists they have dates. On Galaluna, Modula tests the beast in the pit, where it wipes out its opponents with incredible speed. Impressed, he orders it sent to Earth. Lance goes looking for Alana and finds out from her and Newton that he's been roped into going to the dance. Lance warns Alana not to get too excited, saying she might be disappointed. Ilana defensively denies being too excited. The three, along with Kimmy, go shopping for outfits. Lance uncomfortably gets fitted for a tux, while Newton squeezes into his before altering his form to be slimmer and more attractive, much to Kimmy's delight. As Kimmy drags Ilana off to get a dress, Lance glances at Kristen, contemplating his date scenario. Later at school, Lance notices Kristen practicing martial arts in the gym. Impressed, he walks over and they have a quick duel, which Lance easily wins thanks to his military training. He asks her to the dance, but she declines, saying it's not really her thing. The night of the dance arrives. Lance reluctantly puts on a tuxedo. Ilana feels uncomfortable in the revealing dresses Kimmy provided. Newton practices smooth poses. They all meet with their dates. Jason is taking Ilana. Kimmy is with her friends, and Maribel, one of the homecoming planners, is Lance's date to keep Ilana off his back. After photos and the arrival of a limo, everything seems to be going well. Then Newton tenses up and Kimmy realizes what it means. The rift gate is opened. Newton tells Kimmy he has to leave and promises to come back. Heartbroken, Kimmy turns into a typical teenage dirtbag and calls her friends to tearfully explain what happened. Jason and Maribel ride with her to the school, feeling awkward. As the Titan flies toward the creature's landing site, Octus and Ilana reflect on their lost evening, while Lance, who never wanted to go to the dance, focuses on the mission. Kimmy arrives at the dance and runs to her friends, sobbing. Jason and Maribel sit alone at a table, waiting for their dates. Octus regrets making Kimmy cry, and Ilana is disappointed about missing the Harvest Festival. Lance shouts at them to focus as they engage the monster, whose superior speed is knocking them around. At the dance, Kimmy and Brandon are crowned homecoming king and queen. Kimmy looks sadly at the door, waiting for Newton. As she dances with Brandon, who tells her he would never treat her like Newton apparently does, Jason and Maribel decide to dance with each other. Finally, Lance shouts that they're going to die because Octus and Ilana are too worried about his stupid dance. Ilana snaps, thrashing the beast as she shouts that it's more than a dance, it's home. They quickly defeat the creature. As they revert to human form, Newton gazes off, saying he has to go. At Kimmy's house, Newton throws pebbles at her bedroom window to get her attention. She finally answers after he accidentally breaks it. Newton tries an awkward stereo music attempt, but Kimmy calmly tells him she's breaking up with him because she feels he's keeping a secret from her. Newton seems ready to tell her the truth, but she just tells him to go away. At the school gymnasium, Ilana wanders in as the janitors clean up the dance decorations. Lance follows, surprised to learn the theme was the Galaluna Harvest Festival. Ilana stands sadly in the middle of the room. Lance acts like a real gentleman, turns on the music and lights, puts on a hat similar to the one the king wore at a previous festival, and the two dance, laughing and smiling. On Galaluna, Majula, after killing the monster because his creature failed, ponders his next move. In his space station orbiting Saturn, Solomon leads a G3 assault team down dark hallways. Suddenly, they find a wounded G3 trooper among the dead. Solomon asks what happened, but the trooper can only say energy before a mysterious creature attacks. Back on Earth, Octus checks the mail and enters the house. Not finding Lance or Ilana, he searches around until he finds them in his bedroom. Opening the door, he's surprised by Lance and Ilana shouting surprise while holding a birthday cake. Octus is puzzled until Ilana explains they're celebrating his activation day. Lance and Ilana give him presents, fuzzy slippers from Ilana and cool sunglasses from Lance. They each express how much he means to them since they met. Octus receives a distress call from Solomon, but Lance brushes it off, frustrated by Solomon's past troubles. Despite their doubts, Octus and Ilana insist on helping. They transform into Titan and blast off to the space station. Arriving, they switch to spacewalk mode and encounter the G3 bodies before being attacked by the creature. Lance and Ilana switch to full armor, but their weapons fail upon contact with the creature. Solomon saves Octus, and they escape as Lance brings down the ceiling. Solomon leads them to an elevator shaft, explaining the creature absorbs energy, permanently killing whatever it touches. Ilana and Lance worry about Octus' safety. As they flee through the corridors, Lance has a flashback to school where Agnes asks him out. Lance tries to dodge the invitation, but Newton ruins his excuse. In the present, Lance questions Solomon's decision to call for help knowing about the creature. Solomon admits he thought Titan's weapons would be effective and suggests they leave him behind, shocking Ilana. Octus reports Solomon is running out of air as he passes out. While Octus recharges his respirator, Ilana asks Lance for a private conversation. Isolated from Octus' communication circuit, Ilana confides her fears for his safety to Lance. Lance asks if she's willing to leave Solomon behind, but Ilana refuses to sacrifice one life for another. Lance promises they'll protect him, just as he's protected them. Encouraged, they return as Solomon is revived. After expressing his gratitude, Solomon again insists they leave. Octus responds using Lance and Alana's words, revealing he overheard them. Suddenly, the creature attacks again, and they're forced to flee. In another flashback, Alana lies in bed, sick, as Octus watches over her. He informs her of her illness and promises to stay with her until she gets better. Octus produces a holographic fire from his chest, comforting Alana as she drifts to sleep. Back in the present, the creature targets Octus as the most powerful energy source. Lance cuts a hole in the wall with the Manus axe, allowing them to escape. Octus catches up and encases them in his bubble mode for speed. The creature races after them, closing in as they head toward a wall. In another flashback, Lance and Newton pose for a holiday picture as Alana sets up the camera. Octus joins but steps back too far, pretending to fall off a cliff. Alana and Lance rush to the edge, only for Octus to hover back up, capturing the moment just as the camera snaps. Back in the present, the creature closes in on them. On the station, Octus swings right as he disengages a chunk of himself, leaving it energized to lure the creature away. However, the creature brushes Octus, forcing him to disengage and dumping the humans on the floor. They see Newton sprawled in the hallway, his right leg revealed in robot form, completely drained. As the creature feeds on the chunk, they quickly escape. In the station kitchen, Octus tries to recharge his foot without success. The four brainstorm a plan to stop the creature. When sunlight reflects off a metal pan into a glass jar, Lance gets an idea: to catch the creature instead of destroying it. Octus constructs hand-mounted conductors using a molecular furnace and kitchen utensils to create a barrier. Lance and Solomon agree to go after the creature while Alana and Octus hide in the station's freezer, blocking Octus' energy signature. Acting like a real-time father figure, Octus reassures Alana and Lance that they can succeed. Lance and Solomon supercharge another chunk of Octus to attract the creature, and Alana hides with Octus. Octus admits he knows Titan is at risk, but Alana emotionally expresses that he's become part of her family. Octus thanks her, encouraging her to find a way to save Galaluna. Suddenly, weapons fire hits the door. At the trap, Solomon asks Lance what he would do if Octus was lost. Lance insists it won't happen, thanking Solomon for coming to save him. As the creature appears and consumes the chunk of Octus, they spring the trap. Machine gun fire tears the roof off as the G3 starship appears. They leave the creature in the trap and attempt to escape, with Alana and Octus already on board. The creature sends the weapons fire back, cutting Lance's rope and sending him crashing back. Octus jumps down to help him, but the creature strikes, leaving Lance and Alana unable to act. Octus' computer core falls to the ground as the creature loses interest. Lance grabs the core and Solomon pulls him back up to the ship. Inside the ship, Solomon tries to reactivate Octus with the Galalumian systems, but it fails. Lance in mourning unleashes the ship's full power, destroying the station and the creature. Lance shudders with sadness and rage while Alana weeps and Solomon can only offer his apology. Back in the lab, Octus' dead core gazes into infinity. As Alana and Lance try to revive Octus and escape the rampaging Mutrati, they realize they're nothing without him and struggle against the creature's size and power. Alana's core's armor is easily defeated, sending her crashing through a building. Her armor shuts off and just before her demise. Lance in his Manus armor swoops in and saves her. They flee the city and Lance admits they stand no chance against the Mutrati. They travel miles away from Sherman, using coach buses and trains to evade pursuit. Making pit stops at city hotels, they walk through rain and try to hitch rides. At a city hotel, Alana constantly checks for followers as she returns from a grocery store. Lance and Alana discuss the difficulty of reviving Octus, with Alana regretting leaving G3. Lance argues that trouble always finds them at G3. Despite the hardships, they grow closer and manage to share smiles. Staying up late, Lance wakes Alana, showing her that tapping into the hotel's electrical relay might charge Octus' core. Their hope is short-lived as all power shuts off after the attempt, prompting them to run and seek shelter at a motor inn. Watching the news, they see the monster still attacking and feel responsible for not stopping it. Suddenly, a giant robot called the Hammer, created by General Steel, and the military arrives and defeats the creature with ease, shocking Alana and Lance. Lance watches the fight and notices a massive energy core in the Hammer robot, realizing it could jumpstart Octus. They go to an internet cafe to find Steel's military base location. Lance is dismayed at how easily the military reveals its bases. After hours of searching, they find the location and plan to break in to steal the power source for Octus. Back at G3, Solomon is appalled by Steel's robot. A G3 soldier shows Solomon, Lance, and Alana's search for Steel's location. Solomon gets his ships and men ready. At the military base, Lance and Alana disguise themselves as guards but are caught on camera. Steel gets a call about their break-in and prepares his army for battle. Lance and Alana sneak in, swipe a soldier's card to access coded doors, and make it inside. Lance touches the hammer and realizes it's Mutrati material. As they're about to plug Octus in, they're ambushed. They activate their armor and protect themselves from gunfire. Unaware of Steel preparing the hammer, they flee but are chased. Facing greater firepower, they crash and Alana struggles to maintain her shield. Unaware of the missiles, Alana's shield is overwhelmed by the hammer's attack, shutting down her armor. Lance deactivates his armor to rescue her. G3 arrives to save them, attacking the hammer. They escape, and Lance explains to Solomon what they were doing. Solomon promises to talk later and assures they're safe with G3. On the other hand, Steel vows to catch Sym-Bionic Titan and G3, preparing for war with his rearmed hammer and jets. Kimmy, Meat, and Kimmy's friends arrive at the Luna's household to find it deserted, with scattered newspapers and mail indicating the trio's absence. Barb informs them that Lance, Alana, and Octus disappeared without a word. Kimmy starts to regret breaking up with Newton, fearing her request made them leave or worse, and her friends try to reassure her. Meanwhile, Lance and Alana arrive at the G3 flagship. Solomon provides them with quarters and clothing, while G3 scientists examine Octus. Unable to reactivate him, Lance and Alana lose hope of seeing him again. General Steel and the Hammer attack the flagship, sparking a full-scale battle. Lance and Alana engage the Air Force, ensuring pilots eject before destroying fighters. Army paratroopers and the Hammer land on the flagship's upper deck, engaging G3 stormtroopers. However, Alana is horrified by the human willingness to kill each other. 3 Mutrati come through the Rift Gate, landing in Sherman, San Francisco, and Paris. G3 attacks the Mutrati in Paris. The Hammer attacks in San Francisco, and Lance and Alana take on the one in Sherman. Meanwhile, the mysterious cyborg on the G3 ship examines Octus and starts to dismantle him using secret functions built into his outer shell. In Sherman, Lance and Alana struggle against the Mutrati, their armor not powerful enough to defeat it. Suddenly, Octus returns and they have a brief reunion before forming Titan. In San Francisco, General Steel thinks he's defeated the creature after using the Hammer's primary weapon. However, the monster proves to be more powerful, tearing off the Hammer's arms and crushing it. Steel fires the entire Hammer's ordnance, destroying much of San Francisco on live news. In Paris, the third monster easily dispatches G3's Air Corp. The spaceship's wave motion cannon is ineffective until Titan arrives, killing the creature. Solomon is shocked but smiles. Back in San Francisco, the Hammer is in ruins and General Steel crawls out of the rubble, firing his pistol in rage. Titan slices the monster in half, covering Steel in its blood. Despite his disdain, Steel reluctantly thanks Titan on the news before leaving. Titan arrives at the vanished G3 HQ spot. In the aftermath, Alana misses home, wanting her bed back. Newton, with his face replacing his core as his head's up, asks where they have been, and Lance promises to tell him later. In Sherman, Kimmy gets a text from Newton as she talks to her friends with tears of happiness falling from her eyes. If you've made it this far, let's reveal the sad reason behind Sym-Bionic Titan's failure. It was canceled due to licensing issues after its first season and didn't continue. Despite the positive reviews and competitive ratings, co-creator Jendy Tartakovsky disclosed that 10 episodes were in production before the abrupt end. Though hopes for a revival were briefly sparked in 2017, the show's fate remains uncertain, even as it gained new life on Netflix in 2019. So that will be it from us. If you enjoyed the video, then do let us know about your favorite character of the series. Leave us a like and subscribe to our channel for similar content. Thanks for watching. We'll see you at the next one.